It was a cold, crisp night in the Carpathian Mountains of Romania. A lone traveller, Victor had been hiking for hours, his body weary and worn. He had ventured off the beaten path seeking adventure, but now he was regretting it. The moon was barely visible behind thick clouds, and the road seemed to stretch on endlessly. His only hope was to find shelter before the night fully engulfed him. As he walked through the dense forest, his breath turning to mist in the frigid air, he spotted something in the distance, a silhouette towering against the dark sky. It was a stone structure, rising from the forest like a ghost from the past. A tower. Victor felt a shiver run down his spine, not from the cold, but from something more primal. The tower was old, too old, and there was something unsettling about it, but it was the only place in sight, so he decided to approach. Victor reached the base of the tower, his boots crunching against the snow. The tower was imposing. Its stone walls were weathered, with vines crawling up their sides, as though the structure itself was trying to reclaim the land. A rusted iron gate stood at the entrance, slightly ajar, creaking with the wind as though beckoning him inside. With a deep breath, he pushed the gate open and stepped inside. The smell of damp stone and earth filled his nostrils, and the air was thick with an oppressive silence. There was no sign of life, no birds, no animals, not even the sound of wind. Just the silence. Victor, quietly to himself, this place... Something feels wrong. He shrugged off his unease, telling himself it was just a tired mind playing tricks. He was a seasoned traveller, used to wandering through remote places. As he stepped forward, the shadows seemed to move just out of the corner of his eye. He couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. The interior of the tower was as decrepit as the outside. The floors were covered in dust and cobwebs, and the walls were adorned with strange faded tapestries depicting scenes of battles and dark rituals. At the centre of the room was a staircase, spiralling upward into the darkness. Victor hesitated. The stairs were steep, winding higher and higher into the shadows. He could feel the temperature drop as he ascended, the air growing thicker with each step. It was as though the tower itself was alive, breathing around him. Victor whispering, "This is madness, what am I doing?" But his exhaustion took over. He needed rest. He climbed the stairs, the sound of his boots echoing in the empty tower like the footsteps of someone who had been here before. He reached the top, and the door to the tower's upper chamber creaked open. The room at the top was vast, its stone walls etched with symbols Victor couldn't understand. In the centre, a large ornate mirror stood against the wall, its surface tarnished and cracked. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and a cold draught swept through the room, making Victor's skin prickle. Breathless, "No, this isn't right." He set down his bag and took a seat by the window. The moon had vanished, leaving the world outside in complete darkness. He tried to shake off his growing unease, but his mind kept drifting back to the strange mirror. Something was calling him. He walked towards it, his breath shallow as he stared into the cracked surface. At first he saw only his own reflection, tired, dishevelled, a man lost in the wilderness, but then something shifted. The reflection of his face began to change. His eyes grew darker, and his expression twisted into something sinister. A cold chill ran through him as the figure in the mirror smiled, a smile that didn't belong to him. Victor stumbled backward, his heart racing. The reflection didn't move, but something was wrong. The image in the mirror didn't seem to belong to him anymore. It was like an evil version of himself, something that had been trapped inside the tower for years. Whispering, "Leave before it's too late." Victor turned, searching the room for the source of the voice, but there was no one there. The air grew thicker, as though the tower itself was pressing in on him. The walls seemed to close in, and the floor beneath his feet creaked as though something was moving below. Panicking, Victor rushed to the door, but it slammed shut before he could reach it. The room grew darker, and the shadows began to stretch across the walls like living things, crawling toward him. The mirror began to pulse with a faint, unnatural glow. its surface rippling like water. A figure emerged from the mirror, a dark, shadowy form with hollow eyes and a twisted grin. It was the reflection that had once been him, but now it stood before him, a creature of pure malevolence. Voice distorted, mocking. "Did you really think you could escape this place? This tower has been waiting for you." Victor's heart hammered in his chest. He backed away, but the shadowy figure followed, moving with an unnatural, jerky motion. Pleading, "What do you want from me?" The shadow laughed, a cold, bone-chilling sound that echoed in Victor's ears. "You are the key, Victor. You always were. You were meant to find the tower, and now you will never leave." Suddenly the walls of the tower groaned, and the floor beneath Victor's feet began to crack. The tower itself was alive, feeding off the fear and despair of those who entered. The dark secret of the tower was revealed. It wasn't just a cursed place, it was a prison, and the souls of those who had entered it over the centuries were trapped within, unable to escape. Victor turned to run, but the tower's grip was too strong. The shadows wrapped around him, pulling him back. The mirror in the corner began to shimmer, and through its cracked surface he saw the faces of countless others, travelers, wanderers, souls lost to the tower long ago. They reached out to him, their eyes pleading for release. But there was no escape. Victor was now one of them. The wind howls through the trees, but the tower remains silent, its secrets locked away, waiting for the next unfortunate soul to stumble upon it. The camera zooms in on the cracked mirror in the tower's upper chamber. In its reflection, Victor's face is now twisted with the same dark grin as the shadow. His eyes glow with an eerie, unnatural light. Some towers are not just structures, they are prisons, prisons that keep the darkness locked inside. And once you enter, you may never leave, not in body and not in spirit. You were warned. Subscribe to Terror Tales for more horror stories. Hit the bell to stay tuned, like and share our channel.